This second topic in Roman Catholic ethics is marriage. We're going to look at the sacrament of marriage. We're going to look at the symbolism and the ceremony itself. We're going to look at parenthood, adoption and fostering, sex outside of marriage. We're going to look at marital breakdown, divorce, and finally annulment, and the difference between divorce and annulment. The definition of marriage is a legal union between a man and a woman. In the Catholic Church, it is a sacrament. It is witnessed by the priest and the community, and it takes place in front of God. There are trends within marriage. Marriage is now less popular in society than it used to be. Also, the age of people getting married is much higher. It's averaging about 28 or 29 years of age. Also, divorce is now 1 in every 2 marriages. So any marriage now is at least 50% chance of getting a divorce. Divorce is low at the moment. The reason for that is that economically it's very expensive to get divorced. The most important acronym in this topic is SPELL. S for sacrament, P for permanent, E for exclusive, and L for open to new life. These 4 aspects underpin what a Catholic marriage is all about. Number 1, and most important, S is for sacrament. When you get married in the Catholic Church, you are doing so in front of God. It is binding, and it's only broken when one of you dies. P is for permanent, it's lifelong. E is for exclusive, you are completely faithful to one another forever. In Genesis, we talk about becoming one flesh. You are one flesh and you are completely exclusive. L is for open to new life. In Genesis, it says, be fruitful and multiply, and this is a gift of marriage. Staying married is not easy. Many people think that you fall in love, you get married, and everything will be fine. When you're married, you're actually making a decision all the time to love that person. So it's much more than just being in love. It's the biggest decision of your life, and it requires a lot of effort to stay married. What's asked of by Christ is agape, which means selfless love, that you will love that person and put them before anything else in your life. There are 4 conditions of a Catholic marriage, and the acronym here is FRON. F is free to marry. That means you're not married to anyone else, you're not underage, etc. R is for having a responsible attitude to marriage. That means fully understanding the importance of it and being prepared to treat the other person as an equal. O is for open to having children. N is not being forced. That means not being forced by your parents or being put under any pressure whatsoever to enter into the marriage. So these 4 conditions are absolutely vital for the marriage to be valid. There are 2 important definitions here. Number 1 is the rite of marriage. That means the pattern of words that are used within the sacrament of marriage itself. The word rite means outline what happens in the ceremony. Often a GCSE question. Vows are solemn promises that are made with God as a witness. There are signs and symbols within marriage. First of all, you have the ring, which is circular, meaning everlasting, a sign of love and fidelity. You also have vows and questions. These are symbols and signs for the importance of the sacrament of marriage. Here are the vows that you would take if you were going to get married in the Catholic Church. I take thee to be my lawfully wedded husband, wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish from death to us part, according to God's holy law, and this is my solemn vow. Here is the rite of a Catholic marriage. That means this is what happens in the celebration of a Catholic marriage. First of all, you've got the priest welcoming everyone. He is explaining the importance of marriage. He is outlining spell of sacrament, permanent, exclusive and open to new life. You then get readings from the Bible. You then get the priest asking questions. Are they free to marry, etc.? Are they open to having children? You then get the couples exchanging vows to one another, that they will say that they're going to love each other for richer, for poorer, sickness and health, and death to us part. They exchange the rings. Take this ring as a sign of my love and fidelity. You then have a blessing, or you have a proper mass, a nuptial mass it's called. You will then have Eucharist, you'll have Holy Communion there. And finally, the couple will go off, they'll be singing, and then they will sign a register because it's a civil marriage as well. Here are some quotes for the topic of marriage. So you can use these for your GCSE questions. It's important for you to know this. The first book of the Old Testament is Genesis, where it says that God created woman from man and they shall become one flesh. So very symbolic of getting married and becoming one. In Mark's Gospel it says that no human must separate what God has joined together. In Matthew it says that Jesus taught that there should be no divorce except for unfaithfulness. In St. Paul to the Ephesians it says, husbands, you must love your wives, and wives, you should respect your husbands. In Genesis also it tells us that we must go forth and multiply. We must have children within marriage. In Mark's Gospel it says, let the children come to me, the importance of children. And finally in Corinthians, humans are temples of the Holy Spirit. Now we're going to look at parenthood, which means being a parent. First of all, the church teaches that the family is the miniature church. It is the first place where we learn about God's love. Family is a building block for a happy and healthy society. It's where we learn to love and to share. It's where we look after young and sick people. Family duties. Children have a duty to respect their parents, that's one of the 10 commandments, and to also respect their brothers and sisters. Parents must in turn respect their children, look after them, give them a good education morally and spiritually. They must provide their children with a suitable home and be good examples to their children. Parents must regard their children as children of God and respect them as human persons. So St. Paul said, honour your mother and father, as does the 10 commandments. There are two definitions that you need to know, adoption and fostering. Adoption is taking on the legal and parental rights for a child. That means you are responsible for that child through good and bad times for the rest of their lives. Okay? Now fostering is taking in a child from a different family for a short period of time. So you might be looking after them for a week or a year, but then you would give them back to the original family or to social services. First off, why would children be put forward for adoption or fostering? Well, maybe there's illness in the family, the parents are very ill and they can't cope, or there's relationship problems, or the family is breaking down, or mostly maybe that the child's life is threatened, or they're being abused in some way or neglected by their parents. So what can the church do to support all family life? Well, they can offer Catholic education through Catholic schools. They welcome families to Mass and they give facilities to children at Mass. They do special services and social events for children. And if a couple is finding difficulty, Catholic Church offers marriage counselling services. So what qualities do you need to have to look after adopted children or foster children? You must be able to commit to a child, accept the child's past, and to build a relationship with the child, have a sense of humour, be flexible, patient, open-minded, be willing to support and encourage that child, to work with social services. So why would Christians put themselves forward to foster and to adopt? Well, they want to live out live a life of love and make a difference. They may not be able to have their own children. And they may feel that they want to share what they've got, their home, their wealth, with the children to make a difference to their lives. We're now moving on to sex outside marriage. What is the Catholic Church's view of sex outside marriage? Sex outside marriage includes sex before marriage and sex outside of marriage when you're married. According to the Church, sex outside marriage is fornication. It's wrong. In the Bible, it says that it's wrong. St. Paul said that our bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit. We should respect them, and sex is for marriage only. The CCC, which is the Catechism of the Catholic Church, says the sexual union between an unmarried man and an unmarried woman is wrong. Casual sex does not respect the sexual act. The sexual act is for the purpose of bringing you closer with your partner and to be open to new life. Living together is not as committed a relationship as marriage, and it can be more unstable for children. The alternative view is that sex outside of marriage is okay. So this would be for a GCSE question. For example, sex outside of marriage is always wrong, for and against. So now you would say, actually, the points against is that people feel it's okay to enjoy the pleasures of life. Others would say, yes, it's important to stay faithful, but you can have a number of partners before you decide on the person you marry. This is called serial monogamy, which means that you might go out with a boyfriend or girlfriend for a few years, live with them, then you may live with someone else after a couple of years, and eventually you'd get married. Some people think you need a trial period before deciding on getting married, so living together is okay, just to test it out. And others would say you don't have to be married to have sex. Weddings are really expensive, so you may as well live together. So here's some views for and against that you can include in an essay. Here are some qualities that are called the enemies of love. They can lead to problems in a marriage and ultimately in divorce or separation. Anger, jealousy, pride, disloyalty, flattery, intolerance, selfishness, lying, distrust, and dishonesty. All these things can cause people to have marital problems. So what causes marital breakdown? It could be that romance has gone out of the relationship. The couple could be immature, could be too much drinking and violence. Maybe they can't have children. Maybe there's money difficulties and work difficulties. Yes, sometimes people are unfaithful, people are ill, etc. But unfaithfulness is not the main reason for marital breakdown. What problems can be caused by a couple's relationship breaking down? It can be distressing for the couple and children. There can be lots of arguments in the home. It can be unstable for the children, lots of anxiety, and there can be depression amongst the parties as well. How can the wider church help people who are having trouble in their relationships? Well, you can get family members in your church to help you out through childcare, etc. Priests can offer advice. You can go to an organisation called Divorce is the legal termination of a marriage. After a divorce, the couple is free to marry again, but this is not the case in the Catholic Church. A separation is when a couple live apart. A remarriage is a second marriage, but this is not recognised by the Church. There is no remarriage in the Catholic Church. The vows were made, marriage is a sacrament and it cannot be broken. This is not true of all Christian churches. Some Christian churches believe that you can have a second chance. Jesus said, love thy neighbour, and we should forgive people who've made mistakes. The Catholic view of divorce. Divorce cannot dissolve a marriage in the Catholic Church. Catholic view of divorce. Divorce cannot dissolve a marriage because marriage is a sacrament. Jesus said that if you divorce and get married again, you're committing adultery. St. Paul said men and women, husbands and wives, shouldn't get divorced. St. Mark said, "What God has joined together, let no man separate." Divorce damages family life, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church. You can separate in the Catholic Church, but you cannot remarry. Annulment in the Roman Catholic Church is when the marriage is considered to be null and void and invalid, as if it never happened. Go back to FRON. F, were you free to marry at the time? If you weren't, you can try and get an annulment. Did you not really understand the responsibilities of marriage? Again, you could try and get an annulment. You weren't open to children, you never told your partner. And the N is for not forced, but if you were forced at the time of getting married, then you can try for an annulment. If the marriage is annulled, then you can marry in the church again, because the first marriage was declared invalid. The sacrament wasn't present when the vows were made. You need to stop the slide here, because this is a very important slide about difference between divorce and annulment. A divorce, you can get that for pretty much any reason. It terminates a marriage, it's easy to get, it's quite quick to get, it's quite expensive, you don't need any witnesses, it takes place anywhere in society, it's quite easy to get, and it looks towards the end of the marriage what went wrong. An annulment, you can only get an annulment in the Catholic Church when FRON wasn't present at the vows, i.e. you weren't free, you weren't responsible, you weren't open to having children, and you were forced into marriage. Okay, annulment says the marriage never existed. It's difficult to get, it takes time, it's cheaper, it does require witnesses, and it looks to the beginning of marriage with the vows, not the end of the marriage. You need to know that marriage, Catholic marriage, is all about SPEL, and the conditions of a Catholic marriage are based on FRON, and that annulment and divorce are not the same. An annulment you can only get in the Catholic Church, and if FRON conditions are not there, then you can try and get an annulment in the church.